Our feature tonight comes from Constitutional Hill, the home of the highest court in South Africa, the Constitution Court. Now, the court was built in 2001 at a place named Constitution Hill, a site that previously housed a prison. Now, the peace and freedom that it stands for within its precincts are stark reminders of the struggle against apartheid. Jamila Mohammed's recently visited Con Hill, as it is known in Johannesburg, and tells the story of pain, resilience, and the value of freedom.
Constitution Hill in Hillbrow, Johannesburg, South Africa, is a popular destination for tourists. It once served as a prison for 100 years until its closure in 1983. But Cornhill is today home to South Africa's highest court, the Constitutional Court. This is one of 4 remaining blocks of the original staircases at this prison. The rest of the building was demolished in 2001 and the bricks used to build the Constitutional Court. The flame of democracy was placed here in December 2011 to mark 15 years since the signing of the South African Constitution. Paintings of some of the political prisoners imprisoned here adorn the walls. Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Robert Sibukwe, Winnie Mandela and Fatma Mir, among others. The Old Fort Prison was established in 1893 by Boer leader Paul Kruger to manage prospective miners flocking into the newly discovered gold mining village that Johannesburg was then.
The fort was built as a result in 1893 and purposely placed on top of the hill just to supervise everything that was taking place in the mines.
After the Anglo-Boer War in 1899, the old fort became a facility of oppression, serving subsequent whites-only regimes. The prison was divided into sections and included jails number 4 and 5, which were then known as the native jail.
And in 1902, that's when they called it the natives prison, which we now called number 4. It's section 4 and 5 of the prison. So it was built in 1902. That's where all the non-whites were kept. When I say non-whites, I'm referring to coloreds, Asians, Africans. They were all declared as non-whites.
Race drew the lines in the prison, from food rations to the conditions under which the prisoners were kept. It all depended on color, black or white. Ex-prisoners spoke about a humiliating dance called tausa.
The purpose of the dance was just to look through their rectums and check if they were not smuggling anything through their bodies. But it was done in a very inhumane way. Ex-prisoners said after doing that dance, you will feel as if like you're still undressed.
This picture showing tausa was secretly taken from an adjacent building by South African photographer Bob Gosani in 1954.
So yes, he would come. You'd strip naked, hand over your clothes to him. He searches and sees. If he doesn't find anything inside, this is where you're told to turn, give him your back, and you do. This is where you're told to bend down, touch your toes, and you do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he then does the unthinkable. He then takes 2 steps forward, opens your rectum, and shoves his finger inside, just to feel if anything is inside.
Inside the number 4 jail, the non-whites were kept in conditions that were inhumane. Cells designed to hold 30 prisoners often held twice that number. This led to the establishment of prison gangs. With gangs came hierarchies, as illustrated here by what is called blanket sculptures. The strict hierarchy saw gang leaders afforded the most comfort, the blankets showing how this arrangement worked.
You were only allowed onto that side, called and summoned by these men. Now, if you were found onto that side, you were in big trouble during that time. Then onto the side, all of these men would be given code names. Why? So that they could communicate amongst themselves without the guards hearing them out.
The number 4 jail had isolation cells where political prisoners were mainly kept.
And they would be there under the law called detention without trial. This means you don't know why you're being detained, for how long, and the people outside don't even have knowledge of your whereabouts.
Prisoners were kept in these cells on a diet of rice water, just to keep them alive.
Chances of going insane were very, very high. And if you had gone insane, you'd be taken on another one which has a steel bar, like a Butler Pro. And they would put you inside that one, keep the door open, and just lock the steel bar, and then they would hose you, spray with cold water.
Nelson Mandela was once imprisoned here and was kept in number 4. But the second time Mandela was brought here, he was kept away from the other black prisoners. This hospital bed was Nelson Mandela's prison in August 1962, when he was arrested for the second time and brought to the old fort. He was kept here away from the awaiting trial block where the other prisoners were, because the warders at the time were worried that he would escape. You see, Mandela was already popular and famous at that time, and the worry was he may be assisted to escape. Mandela came back here 30 years later as president. He visited this old fort prison 3 times and signed the Bill of Rights right here. This cell now holds memories of Mandela's time. Letters that he wrote, pages of his memoir, and this picture of him walking in the prison garden. Tourists flock to this part of the old fort prison, which held only white prisoners, Mandela being the exception. The women's jail, built in 1910, hosted prominent freedom fighters such as Winnie Mandela, Fatma Mia, and Albertina Sisulu, among others. The first group of women that arrived at the prison comprised the Amawasha, so named because they used to do washing and cleaning in white neighborhoods. The isolation cells that were dreaded by the women now have videos of interviews from those who were once held here. Prisoners were kept in these cells for 3 days with only rice water. Constitution Hill is a place of contrasts, of injustice and oppression, but also of liberation and preservation of human rights. Each aspect of the Constitution Court was built as a reminder of past atrocities. The fundamentals of the Bill of Rights adorn the main door of the court area in all the local languages. The sculptures and paintings at the entrance have a significance and tell the story of the struggle to end apartheid and the importance of freedom. Inside the court building, there is one of the 4 original staircases from the awaiting trial block, while in the court chambers, the bricks from the jail were used to build the walls of the court.
And those bricks, when you are inside the main chamber, they serve as a constant reminder of where we used to be. And it also says to the judges, whatever history that we had, which was bad, it can also be turned into something good.
Jamila Mohammed, Citizen TV, Johannesburg, South Africa.